He boarded the flight like any other passenger, quiet, polite, just another face in the crowd. But what most didn't know, he was the son of one of the world's wealthiest black billionaires. To some, that meant respect. To others, it meant resentment. And on this day, resentment would take the form of a single slap, a moment so humiliating, so shocking, that the cabin gasped in disbelief. But the story didn't end there, because seconds later, the plane froze on the tarmac. And everyone realized this wasn't just about one slap, it was about something much bigger. Elias wasn't someone who liked to draw attention. Despite his father's global empire, spanning technology, philanthropy, and real estate, he carried himself with humility. To him, flying commercial was a reminder of normalcy. No private jets, no special escorts, just a seat, a window, and a book to keep him company. That morning, the airport buzzed like always. Lines, impatient travelers, flight attendants rushing to prepare the cabin. Elias took his seat in business class, nodding politely at the crew and slipping into quiet comfort. He wore jeans and a hoodie. Nothing flashy, nothing to suggest wealth. But sometimes, no matter how you dress, people still see only the color of your skin. As passengers settled, one flight attendant in particular, Claire, seemed unusually tense. Her eyes lingered on Elias longer than others, her tone sharp when addressing him. At first, he brushed it off. He'd learned over time that subtle looks and clipped words were easier to ignore than confront. Still, there was an edge in her demeanor that made the air feel heavier. What Elias didn't know was that this ordinary flight would soon turn extraordinary, not because of turbulence or delays, but because of one act of bias that would expose deep cracks beneath the polished surface of the airline industry. And it would all begin with a single moment of humiliation. It started with the smallest things: delays in service, curt responses, and pointed glares. When the drink cart rolled through, Claire skipped over Elias as though he wasn't even there. Passengers around him raised eyebrows, whispering among themselves, but Elias simply sat back. He was used to this. Too used to it. Then came the moment that changed everything. As Elias stood to stretch, Claire swooped in, her voice cutting, like glass. "Sir, sit down immediately. You're making the cabin unsafe." Elias froze. He wasn't in anyone's way. He wasn't breaking any rules. But before he could even respond, Claire stepped closer. And with shocking audacity, she slapped him across the face. Gasps erupted. The sound echoed in the cabin, a crack that shattered the illusion of civility. Elias staggered, stunned, his cheek burning. For a moment, the world seemed to stop. Phones came out, passengers recorded. Some shouted at the attendant, demanding answers. Others looked away, uncomfortable, pretending not to see. But there was no denying what had happened. Violence, prejudice, and humiliation, all in broad daylight, 30,000 feet in the air. Elias's mind raced. Should he retaliate, speak up, or stay silent like he had been taught, knowing that any sudden move, any anger, would be twisted against him? Then, something unexpected happened. The captain's voice broke through the intercom, unusually urgent. "Ladies and gentlemen, we're experiencing an issue. Please remain seated. We will not be departing at this time." The plane froze on the tarmac. Engines powered down. And, suddenly, it wasn't just a slap anymore. It was a crisis. The airline wasn't moving until this situation was addressed. And the entire cabin knew. They were all witnesses to a story that would not go away quietly. The cabin was chaos. Passengers shouted, some defending Elias, others insisting the crew had a right to enforce order. But no one could ignore the footage now spreading across phones, Claire striking Elias in plain view. The captain entered the cabin, his expression tight. He asked Elias to explain what had happened. Elias, voice steady despite the humiliation, recounted the events with calm precision. No anger, no exaggeration, just truth. And when passengers backed him up, the weight of the moment pressed down like a storm cloud. Claire's defense unraveled quickly. Her excuses, he was aggressive, he was threatening, crumbled under the eyes of those who had seen everything. Her prejudice had been caught on camera, her power misused in front of dozens. But what no one expected was Elias's next move. He didn't shout. He didn't demand retribution. He simply looked around the cabin, at the passengers who had watched, at the crew who had chosen silence, and said, "This isn't just about me. This is about what people like me endure every day, in places you never see. Maybe this time, you did." The silence that followed was deafening. For the first time, the flight crew looked uneasy, not because of lost time, but because they knew the world outside was about to see what happened inside. Elias disembarked the plane not as a victim, but as a witness. Within hours, the video had spread across social media. News outlets picked it up. The airline scrambled to respond, suspending Claire and issuing statements of apology. But the world had already made its judgment. For Elias, the slap was more than personal humiliation. It was a public reminder that wealth, status, or silence couldn't shield him from prejudice. He knew this story wasn't just his. It belonged to countless others who never had a camera recording, who never had witnesses brave enough to speak. The impact was swift. Protests formed, demanding accountability from the airline. Policies were questioned, diversity training renewed, oversight committees established. But the deeper question remained, echoing far beyond airports and tarmacs. How many more times will injustice be dismissed until it's undeniable? Elias didn't ask for this moment. He didn't want the attention, the headlines, or the chaos. But as the world replayed that slap, frame by frame, a truth became impossible to ignore. Racism doesn't vanish in first class, and silence doesn't protect those targeted by it. And maybe, just maybe, because the world saw it this time, change could finally begin. And that's the story of Elias, a reminder that no amount of wealth, status, or silence can shield someone from prejudice. What happened on that flight was more than a single slap. It was a reflection of a deeper problem that still lingers in our world today. But now, I want to hear from you. Do you think real change is possible? Or will stories like this keep repeating? If this story moved you, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more powerful stories that expose the truths too often ignored.